Good evening. This work session of the Board of Education of the Cleveland Municipal School District will come to order. Mr. Stockdale, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Ellicott?
Here.
Mr. Billups?
Here.
Mr. Briggs?
Here.
Mrs. Jones?
Here.
Reverend Jones?
Here.
Mrs. LeBron? Mrs. Peak? Dr. Sridhar? Mrs. Welch-Howe? There are 8 members present.
Thank you. I ask everyone who wishes to rise and participate in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The chair will now entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the Board Leadership Development Session of January 24th, 2025, and the Board Business Meeting of January 28th, 2025.
So move.
Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. The minutes are approved. Next, I'm pleased to introduce our CEO to present this evening's CEO report. Dr. Morgan?
Thank you, Chair Ellicott, and everyone. Welcome to February. The year is trucking on along, and excited to bring some updates for you today. So since this is a work session, we're going to have a school spotlight. But before we do our school spotlight, we have just a few things that I want to share within the CEO report. And I'm going to have some of my colleagues helping to tag team with me on this. But first, acknowledging that this is Black History Month, and always really excited to just celebrate the contributions of Blacks and African Americans in this country and around the world, because truly Black history and African American history is everyone's history, just knowing the contributions. And I know we're doing some videos across the district featuring one of the Garrett Morgan principals, Quinn Davis, and he talks about just the legacy of Garrett Morgan, and we're sitting in the building of an amazing African American that was here in the city that made major contributions, not only locally, nationwide, worldwide. And so just keeping that in the hearts and minds of everyone this month and every day. So excited to celebrate that and kicking that off this month. Next, I'm excited to bring up our Chief Academic Officer, Dr. Selena Florence, who's going to talk a little bit about our recent NAEP results that have come out, and we wanted to make sure we shared some updates of where we are, and also in light of thinking about some of the future work that we're going to also be doing within the system in response to this. So, Dr. Florence, and just let me know when you're ready to advance the slides.
Good evening, Board Chair Ellicott, Dr. Morgan, board members. So on the next slide, you will see just an overview of NAEP very quickly. So NAEP really is an assessment that is given across our country, and it is the only assessment that really measures what students know and can do in various subjects across the country. So it is the one consistent assessment that is across all of our nation. It measures overall student performance by key demographics. It also measures change over time, and also measures the differences between the nation, state, and urban districts. It uses a sampling procedure, so not all students in all districts take the assessment, but it tries to get a representative group from different races, ethnic groups, socioeconomic levels, geographical levels, all within one state. Then within those schools, it also does a sampling of students that are assessed as well. So in 2024, about 800 students from CMSD were tested in all 65 of our K-8 schools. Students in grades 4 through 8 are tested in math and reading every 2 years. So what you will see on the next 2 slides for both reading and math is that performance continues to decline across the country. So most districts and also most urban districts continue to see declines, where CMSD is in a state of we did not move very much. There was not a lot of improvement over the course of the past 2 years. We are still in a state of trying to recover from pandemic levels of performance. And as for reading, some of the work that we are doing now is really rationale to really support this data and to really be able to speak to how we want to see this change over the course of the next 2 years. Math looks very similar, not a lot of change over the course of the past 2 years across the nation and also in CMSD. And we are all still trying to recover and really working to ensure that all the pieces and priorities of our strategic plan are put into place to help support this specific piece of data.
Thank you, Dr. Florence. And so just, echoing what Dr. Florence just shared, when looking at our NAEP data, our district held steady from our 2022 results, but looking from where we were in 2019, and then the pandemic, it showed that we had a major drop-off. And so I want to show our next slide here. And this next slide just shows the history. And we've been participating in NAEP since 2003. So you could see the district is the lowest blue line there. There are a couple of highlights I want to let you know here. One, there was no significant change, once again, in both reading and math from our 22 results. So we, I wouldn't say that that's a positive or negative. It didn't go up or significantly down. From 2022, we held steady. Ohio constantly, as a state, outperforms the nation. So Ohio is that top line that you see in the graph there. And this is looking at our, these are looking at ELA results here, and then the next slide I'm going to show you is math. But Cleveland consistently underperforms relative to Ohio and the nation. And so when we look at, and this is historically, over time, Cleveland consistently underperforms Ohio and the nation. And so when we talk about excellence at scale and the quality that we're trying to do, this is the drumbeat of the importance. And I'll show you our math. It's a similar story. We held steady from where we were in 2022. You saw some slight uptick in our fourth grade results, some slight downtick in eighth grade results, but no statistically significant change. And even when we got our Council of Great City Schools result, it's showing it held flat. But you still see we're far behind where the state and the nation is. And so when we talk about excellence at scale, this is the work we're talking about. Now, some may ask, how can you have this and think about like what we just celebrated with our 3-star rating on our report card? And that doesn't negate that. One, I want to let you know this is a sample of students. It was 800 students in our system that took this test, as opposed to all students in our district who take the state assessment. But if you remember our state report card results, most of our work that led us to our 4-star rating is due to progress. And we're proud of that progress. We're proud of closing gaps. We're proud of our students making gains in progress. But achievement still leaves a lot to be desired. And we talked about that 2-star rating and achievement, 1-star in art early literacy. So we have work to do. So when we talk about every school, every scholar, every time, this is the work we're going to do, and this is the importance of the board goals and guardrails work that we're doing, the importance of long-term planning. It is the work. So I just want to make sure that we just continue to double down on the work, and I know that that's the work that everyone knows our educators are working hard to do, as well as our school leaders, but it just shows that we have work to do and that we have pockets of excellence, but we do not have excellence at scale. So thank you, Dr. Florence. Cool. And now I'll bring up Chief Stockdale. And similar to Dr. Yeah, let's take questions since this is a multi-stage presentation. If there are any questions of me.
Thank you, Dr. Morgan. Dr. Florence, any questions or discussion from board members? I guess not. What I will say is I appreciate the sober look, and I have to be honest, it's very disappointing and sad to look at these results, and especially compared to the nation, and we need to do better for our kids, so I really appreciate the focus and the honesty and the directness, so we've got our work cut out for us.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now Chief Stockdale. And just like I told Dr. Florence, when you need me to advance, let me know.
Yeah, you can go ahead. Just a couple slides from me tonight, and really the first one is about where we are in the financial process as far as budget planning. So the governor did release his executive budget to the General Assembly last week. That begins kind of the process where we learn where we are going to end up, because we are required to do a multi-year forecast without knowing what the governor's budget will be or what the General Assembly will actually adopt. So that was introduced on the 3rd. we're at the point where in the next couple weeks, we will expect to see preliminary state aid estimates, and that really drives how much state funding we expect to have over the next 2 years. The initial things that we've seen are positive in that it's continuing to implement the school funding formula. There are some areas that we want to work on, but we have some advocates that we're working with on that. We will be doing school-based budgeting, which kicks off later this month in February, and Dr. Florence has a couple of slides on that as well, and then central office budgeting in March and April. That is all designed to bring to you a 5-year forecast and a budget in the May timeline so that we can meet the state requirements. I will point out that this year is an unusual year. Every other year we go through this where we have a 2-year state operating budget where we will have to pass a budget based on our best assumptions about what the state is going to do. I did want to highlight also some spending controls. This is not the most exciting thing, but there has been some interest recently about the way that we're managing funds. And so specifically thinking about our contract spending, we implemented new controls this fiscal year at Dr. Morgan's direction for personal service contracts, basically requiring additional levels of approval to make sure that they're in alignment with our spending priorities, as well as restrictions on employee travel and meeting expenses. And so to give you a heads up on where we are, so through the end of December with service contracts, we're trending to about 18% lower. So that means thus far this year, we've saved about $10 million. That's a sizable, obviously, amount of money. And then, and that's to our forecast. So really, we already reduced it when we reduced the forecast, and we're doing even better than what we projected. And then the second is employee travel. We are, with these additional procedures in place, we're trending toward about a third lower than last year. This one does vary quite a bit throughout the year, so we'll keep watching this one, but I wanted to give you a quick update on these items.
Any discussion, board members? I have a question. Without asking you to predict or react to any changes at the federal level, can you speak to how federal funding is incorporated in our budget?
Yes, federal funding is very significant. So if you think about things like special education and Title I, which is funding for students experiencing poverty, it's a very substantial part of our budget. The positive thing so far is that the direction that we've received from the State Department of Education and what we've received from the U.S. Department of Education, there have not been any direct impacts on our grants. And so we are continuing to proceed as we were. Obviously, something that we closely monitor, and that involves, seeing what happens with the executive branch as well as with judicial decisions. So it's constantly evolving, but right now, no impact.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll have some updates on school-based budgeting, and I believe this is both Dr. Florence and then Aaron Frew. So Ms. Frew is coming up first. And Ms. Frew is our schools officer.
Good evening. So I've been asked to discuss how we are modifying our school-based budgeting, so the why and the how behind the budgeting process. So every year, a group of principals and central office administrators gets together and reviews how we fund our schools. And so as part of that, the team made a commitment to keep our total pool, right? There's always a pool of funds that we use for the schools. We wanted to hold that steady. Despite the deficit reduction plan. That being said, we also know that inflation, the collective bargaining increases for pay, there are some changes that needed to be made in terms of how funds were distributed, right? And so into the current funding model that we had, we saw some inequities happening in terms of staffing and non-personnel funding. So we worked together to revise the formula to make it more equitable so that students had equitable experiences no matter what campus they were on. So currently what we see is that personnel and non-personnel are combined. So there is a great deal of autonomy for schools that have certain population levels, certain populations in terms of what they can choose to do. While many of our smaller schools, or our schools that are kind of on the edge, do not have quite that same autonomy, and they're funded at what's called the baseline. We do include the Title I funding in the pool. They receive base weights, and I was referring to 8 additional weights that kind of determine how much a particular student is worth in that pool. In the past, we've kind of said baseline, like we're going to give you another teacher, is 34-1, which is a very large class size, right? For schools that cannot operate within that baseline, what we've done is we've taken and we've allocated additional. There were 47 schools last year out of the 96 or so that were at baseline and had 0 staffing flexibility. So basically, you had your 9 K-8 teachers and your 3 encore teachers, and that was all you could have if you were a K-8. That being said, we did provide for schools that have unique funding models like the New Techs, campus, the IB schools, I shouldn't just say campus, the IB schools, Montessori's. They receive additional funding to make sure that they aren't having $0 to be able to do anything else but train their teachers. So we give them that extra amount. So what are we doing to kind of change and make things more equitable? So here are the changes that we've proposed. Personnel and non-personnel are being separated so that school leaders and their community aren't having to make really difficult decisions about class sizes and things like that. So we will help them with their allocations, and then they will make determinations. They will still have the flexibility to choose like their encores and things like that. That is not being taken from them. But they are receiving non-pupil personnel funding so that there is more equity in terms of the experiences they can offer for their students outside. So every student is worth $200 of non-personnel, and then for our students with special needs and our students that are language learners, they receive an additional $50 weight so that those extra supports can be provided for those students. So a student could be worth $300 if they are both a student with special needs and a language learner. We have committed to reducing the class size allocation. So that does not seem like a ton of money for non-personnel, right? But part of that is so we could reduce class sizes, hopefully. We are still including Title I funding in the school funding pool. Something that's important to note is that pre-K has always been outside of SBB, and it will continue to be outside of SBB. So I kind of addressed some of this. So school leaders will continue to have autonomy over hiring decisions, including their administrative teams. They will have autonomy over non-personnel. They will have autonomy to have an over-ask. So if they feel like part of our allocation process was incorrect, they can appeal that decision if they feel like they have something else that they need. Unique school models are remaining in place. We are continuing to fund those. We do expect, based on our modeling, that the staffing baselines should reduce staff transfers. And then finally, any staff that might be displaced through this process, which happens every year, and aren't selected through the OPI process, are going to be supported in their placement by talent and human resources. So any questions? Yes, sir.
I do have a couple questions. Thank you for that report. How do we compare to the other large school systems in Ohio in the 34-1 ratio?
So I am not familiar with that. I'll defer to Mr. Stockdale, but I would say class size ratios, I can speak to class size ratios. I can't speak to how they fund. 34-1 in terms of our funding, I don't know, but I will say our class sizes are approximately the same as Cincinnati and Columbus.
Okay. The other question I have is, how do you come up with the $200 and the $100 and the $50 allocations?
So in terms of the $200, what we looked at is across all of our schools, what was like the mode and median of current allocations was like 141.75, I believe. I think that was the mode. And so, no, sorry, that was mean. And so what we did is we took that and we looked at all the different levels and we said, okay, if we think about what a good experience would be for a student and we have an average size school, what a dollar amount would that be approximately? And the $200 allows for your basic supplies, like making sure teachers have enough paper to make copies, that they have classroom supplies, things like that, but also accounting for the fact that you do want to be able to have some field trips. You want to be able to do some fun things, and so increasing that experience. So that's where we landed on the $200 for our traditional student, right? And then in terms of the $50 for the students with special needs and for our students that are language learners, we kind of looked at what extra things might we need to purchase in terms of supplies, in terms of programming. And so we kind of looked at that funding and determined that that would be approximately, if they have a relatively decent sized population, would allow us to buy the things we need to provide them with a good experience.
And who has the discretion on that? The principal?
The principal, working with
Okay.
his or her team.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Briggs. Thank you.
One thing I'll add, in with, where they were sharing in terms of the formula, that was specifically for non-personnel, personnel. Some of those, the funding in terms of how much we receive per student is set by the state. And that we still will be allocating the appropriate staff that schools will need. And as you heard Ms. Frew mention, principals still have the autonomy of hiring who is in their building. The allocations are just set and given to them, and then they have the process through the over-ask to help with that if they have any discrepancies. And I believe with that, I'm turning it over to Astrid Mazinski, who is here from Kindland. I know we're going to have a video in a moment, but you've been a partner with CMSD for years, and I know you work directly in some of our schools, spreading joy and kindness across Ohio. So tell us a little bit about the work you do before we turn it over to the video.
Well, appreciate the invite, Chair Eloquat and CEO Morgan and board members and guests. We started our relationship with the district in 1995 as Project Love. Many of you, especially our former board member Rob Briggs, remember Project Love. And we've had an extensive involvement from K to 12. We also have an involvement with 3 of the high schools are involved in our workforce training and our VIA workforce training, Ginn Academy and John Marshall School of Engineering and John F. Kennedy High School. With great strides, that's a 16-week soft skills, character, and values curriculum where we pair the students with corporate mentors, and the increase in confidence, in communication, in poise, in presentation is just off the charts. In fact, we had the Department of Education and Workforce come through last Thursday. We took them, one of the schools that we took them to was John Marshall, and 4 students made their showcase presentations of who they are, what they stand for, and how they're going to win at the game of life, and the ODW people were just blown away. So, you know, congratulations, and we have a great principal at Dr. Primus and a great teacher, Mr. Casal at John Marshall. In 2020, we decided that kindness was a core value that could activate schools and grow organically. And so we started the Kindland movement, and we initiated Kindland in 2022 in CMSD, and we have 40 Kindland schools participating in CMSD with different lesson plans and different levels of messaging. And the great thing about Kindland is that it can expand and contract with whatever the school wants. You know, as I was talking to a couple of principals before the meeting, and they said, yeah, we're doing this Kindland exercise and this Kindland exercise, and teachers have come up with their own ideas, and parents have come up with their own ideas, and that's exactly what we have seen throughout the state, that this grows organically and it kind of scales to whatever that particular school wants. But the objective of Kindland is to have an immersive experience, because if, we liken it to going to the shore of Lake Erie and taking a salt shaker and pouring salt in Lake Erie and thinking that you're going to get salt water. It's not going to be salt water in Lake Erie. The Kindland lesson plans and messaging is designed to have an immersive experience. So when the Cleveland Transformation Alliance came to us earlier this year and suggested, well, why don't we portray our 11 teachers of excellence and how kindness has impacted them? And that's exactly what we're doing tonight. We are also inviting all of you and the 11 teachers of excellence to join us for the local Kindland Awards ceremony at the City Hall Rotunda on March 11th, where Kindland Awards will be given to the 11 teachers of excellence, as well as to Councilman Polensik, Councilperson Meredith Turner of County Council, Mayor Clough, the longest serving mayor in Cuyahoga County, and Joe Simperman as our nonprofit executive of the year. So it's a great ceremony. All of you will be receiving invitations, and we'll send that through CEO Morgan's office. I just want to leave you, you have several materials, and one thing that we've done with the Transformation Alliance is, we always like to do kind of a new push, kind of a reboot of Kindland in CMSD and all of our other schools every year. And so along with the Cleveland Transformation Alliance, they suggested doing a challenge board. We call it the School Year of Kindness. So there are different acts of kindness that your scholars and your teachers, and their families, in fact, can do during the course of the year. Ben Kretko, who is our Director of School Partnerships, will be monitoring it and working with the individual schools, and we hope that that will be distributed through the principals and to the teachers and, and to the students. It'll be a great exercise. I just want to leave you just with one thought. Kindness is like an all-purpose tool. A friend of mine likens it to a coat hanger. He said, when he was growing up in one of the projects, they didn't have a lot, but their father had a coat hanger. And when the sink clogged, he got the coat hanger out. And when the toilet clogged, I hope he didn't use the same coat hanger, he got the coat hanger out. And when the kids locked the keys in the car, he got the coat hanger to jimmy the lock. We've all been there, done that. This friend of mine also told me that coat hangers are good for constipation. We don't have to go into that. But I do know one thing, that kindness is the all-purpose tool for constipation of the heart. And that is what we need in our nation right now. That's what we need in our community, and that's what we need to teach our kids. Without further ado, let's see how kindness can talk for itself through your teachers.
All right, thank you. And we'll start this video, and we'll see, depending on how long it is, we may start, and then we'll make sure we
It's
have
just
everyone share.
3 minutes.
3 minutes, okay, there we go. And yeah, can you guys cue it from there? Yeah.
Our schools are supposed to be places of joy, compassion, and learning, and kindness is so important to making that vision a reality for our schools. That's why the Kindland Initiative is critical to all the work that we're doing at CMSD.
Kindness at JMIT always reminds me of when we share a meal together as colleagues, staff, teachers. All of us come together, whether it's a PD day, whether it's a nice treat from the principals. When we get to share a meal together and sit down, discuss things that are going on outside of school, and really just talk about our lives. I feel like that's when the most kindness comes out. It really makes me feel connected to the people that I work with.
My physical education teacher in elementary school has such a profound impact on me. I became a physical education teacher myself. In my classroom, we have a quote, kindness, if it's to be, it's up to me. And one of our students came up to me and brought me this amazing card that says, you're an amazing teacher, and it's because of kindness. If it's to be, it's up to me.
Kindness has had a profound impact on my life, often in ways I didn't expect. Whether it was a small act of encouragement when I needed it most, or someone just taking the time to listen, kindness has been a powerful reminder of the connections that bind us as humans.
Kindness is so important to our scholars and our educators. When I think about what kindness means in CMSD, it means seeing every individual for who they are, respecting them, seeing them, helping them, and making sure they achieve their highest goals. That's what kindness means to me in CMSD.
The person who inspired me was my first grade principal, Dr. Dolores Groves. On the day that I saw her, I witnessed what I could become, and throughout my life, she has shown me how I can inspire others as she did for me. She always tells me how proud she is of me, and she has always encouraged me to do things that would inspire and encourage others.
How has a teacher impacted my life? Well, it would be too easy for me to just say it's my dad. Retired teacher, left the profession in '94, spent some time in CMSD, so I'm gonna go with Roy Rhoda, longtime CMSD science teacher, and his impact on me was profound because he reinvigorated, renewed himself every year to the profession, made sure that he stayed on top of the latest trends, and just was terrific with the students.
Unfortunately, our staff at Nathan Hill experienced tragic loss throughout the years. So this year, we decided to think about those staff members by having an angel tree. So our angel tree is in honor of Nathan Hill angels who are gone but not forgotten.
Kindness impacts me on a daily basis at my school, Pure Dual Language Academy. For our village, kindness is definitely the norm. From our warm and genuine admin to my amazing, talented, kind, generous colleagues, and to my students who sometimes stay after school to write surprise messages for me with love and kindness. When I walk in and see messages from my students on the board, or even Mrs. Baker, the music teacher, leaves messages for me and my students full of love and kindness, it really just gets the day off to a great start and makes me want to pay it forward.
Kindness has impacted me because I had that one teacher that went above and beyond her role for me. I now strive to be a teacher who models kindness. Kindness is contagious, and that's why people even as young as my preschoolers are being taught to be a light for others.
Congratulations to all of the CMSD Teachers of Excellence on achieving this monumental recognition. We are all so very proud of this accomplishment and all of the things that you do every day to support Cleveland's children.
Congratulations to all the amazing teachers who are getting an award today for supporting the Kindland initiative. You all are heroes. You all are inspiring the next generation of leaders at CMSD. Keep doing the amazing work to inspire the next generation of Cleveland's leaders.
Congratulations to our CMSD family for displaying kindness every day. It is the work our scholars do, the work our educators do, to ensure we demonstrate heart every day and that we're kind every day. Thank you.
To be a part of CMSD.
All right, thank you so much. Yeah, all right. And now we're going to move into our school spotlight, and that'll be our last part of the CEO report. And this is Principal Irvin from O.H. Perry.
Yes, hi, good evening. Good evening, CMSD Board of Education members, Chair and CEO Dr. Morgan.
My name is Brittany Irvin. I am the proud principal of Oliver H. Perry. This is my 9th year with CMSD. I moved here in 2016 from New York City to join the Aspiring Principal Program. It would be a missed opportunity not to emphasize the importance of your leadership at this moment in time. Your leadership is crucial as we face challenges to our core values of equity, inclusion, and safe and supportive learning cultures. We must protect our students from intimidation, ensure they receive necessary special education services, and stand united against any attempts to dismantle public education. I urge you to prioritize these issues to safeguard our students and ensure they receive the education they deserve. I stand with you as an educator, a school leader, and a social justice advocate. I look forward to now sharing with you who we are at OH Perry, including our achievements, culture and climate, and equity measures and progress. Okay, so we're just going to start with an overview of who we are. We are a preschool through 8th grade school in Collinwood. Here are our demographics. We are part of Network 4, which is the redesigned schools. So within our student population, 20.3% of our students are students with disabilities. This is actually report card data, and so to date, that number is 24.3%. Our student makeup, so 94.9% of our students are Black. Our teacher makeup, 35% of students are Black and 65% white. I also want to note that for our special education demographic, the majority of students are in general education. This has been an increase for us over the past 8 years. Okay, achievement. So these measures, these stars will be familiar to you from the state report card system. So our overall stars are 2, stars for achievement are 1, and 3 stars in progress. So you're going to hear me emphasize progress throughout this presentation. So we'll start with ELA proficiency, which includes our subgroups. The text is a little tiny here, but you can see that our current overall proficiency for students is at 19%. For our Black students, it is 20%, and for our students with disabilities, it is 0%. That is what we are currently at, and our goals are listed in that second column for the end of this school year and at the end of a 3-year period, which we make our school improvement plan based on. The image below that is how we can see if we are making progress as measured by the same assessment, the OST. So for ELA, based off of their scores from the last OST administration, we had 17.16% of students declining, 51.48% holding steady, so in the current band they were in, and 38.36% moved higher to a half band. We're progress monitoring this in between this assessment with things like NWEA and our new HMH module assessments. So we did just finish winter benchmarking, so we will have a new data point soon. Now we're looking at math. Same overview, but our math overall for all students for proficiency is 6%. For Black students, it is 6%, and for students with disabilities, it is 0%. That half-band overview shows that 9.8% of students were declining, 48.42% were holding steady, and 56.50% were improving. As of our fall NWA, we do see that we are on track to reach this goal. So we have, by the end of this school year, that we will be 18% proficient for Black students and 11% for students with disabilities. Okay, culture and climate measures. So our academic achievement plan was focused on Tier 1 SEL instruction. we worked hard to establish thresholds for what a Tier 2 and Tier 3 student would look like in an SEL support and what a menu of interventions would be. So one of the assessments that we use to see progress comes directly from our students, called the Conditions for Learning Assessment. So this is our fall results for grades 2 through 4. So one thing I do want to note for this school year, and Ms. Peak, you know, living in the neighborhood, we had a charter school close in our area that our enrollment changed quite a bit. 37% of our student population was new to our building this school year. So there was a major change of culture as the result. But we did show that our overall CFL data for grades 2 through 4, we're at 79% in the category of social emotional wellness, where you can see the district is at 89%. And this is how students report adequate to excellent. This is their perception of their peers' social emotional and problem-solving skills, and also how they are developing those skills. And really in relation to grades, attendance, behavior, their attitudes towards school. One thing that I want to note is since 2021, these numbers, they were at 16 to 24%. Now we see ranges from 44 to this 79% of adequate to excellent. So we really are making significant progress. We also want to acknowledge we need to be above and beyond what the district average is. One thing that we are going to do with our unique school structure, we have a lower dean, so he supports grades pre-K through 4. He's going to meet with small students to unpack their responses from this assessment. One of the areas they said they didn't feel as safe was the hallway and the staircase, so he's going to co-create an action plan with them so that we can make some improvements by our spring assessment. If you look a little deeper into that data, you can see how students report by other subgroups. So you can see right away that female students are reporting different indicators than their male students. You can see second and third grade, how there is some variation there. Students with disabilities are reporting higher than their peers in these overall areas. Now we are at 5th through 8th grade. An area of celebration. We typically had ranges in these categories between 5 to 20% that were adequate and excellent, where now we are at 50 to 82%. The area that we're going to look at is social emotional wellness. So we are currently at the 68% compared to the district 73. Our upper dean, who is concentrated in grades 5 through 8, is also going to do the same thing, meet with small groups and student council to co-create a spring action plan. Here's digging a little deeper by grade level and by other identifiers. We can see the students are trending higher in how they report if they are a student with disability, and that our female students are another group that we need to focus on. All right, our equity measure, critical data to support our core values. This overview here is our suspension data. So our total enrollment to date is 288 students. Within that total amount, 53 students have received a suspension this school year. Within that total enrollment amount, 70 students enrolled at our school are students with disabilities. 13 of those students have received a suspension. So when we think about the overall percentage of students being suspended, it's currently 18.4% in our school, but it's 25% of students with disabilities. So it is disproportionate to the amount of total enrollment. I will note that in 2017, when I started at OH Perry, the suspension rate was 37%. So we have worked very hard to decrease this, but we still have work to do. areas of focus, and you get to see our beautiful kiddos and Miss Ryan, our 5th and 6th grade math and science teacher here. These are the 4 areas that our school improvement plan is garnered around. So for ELA, we are focused on implementing new curriculum with Fidelity. That has been a district-supported process where we have been able to bi-weekly check our classrooms with look-fors. We also are now in this place, Q2, we started with our small group instruction. So teachers are really using the data that they are gathering from the new curriculum to be able to support smaller groups of students in their learning. For math, we are focused on the major work of the grade. It can be easy sometimes in math to focus on fluency skills that students need and forget that the rigor and the conceptual work in their grade is key to their success in the next grade. So we took time in professional learning and development with teachers to make sure that was the focus. And then how are they leveraging small group instruction to support students? School climate, we've talked about the SEL universal screener that we're using, but that is coupled with instruction. So it's not enough to test children and see where they land, but what are you going to actually do about it? So at our school, we have SEL instruction. That's part of our morning meeting, advisory. Really, it's embedded into learning because these are skills students need regardless. Tier 2 and 3 thresholds with a menu of interventions and progress monitoring. So what does it look like if you're maybe a student who gets an office referral or you have a repeat behavior? What's in place for you? What does that system of support look like? And then engagement. So we have monthly newsletters from each grade level that share with families what is the learning focus of the month, what are the celebrations happening, and what is the instructional strategy that they can try at home with their child. So some celebrations. In the past 2 years, we've decreased suspensions by 11%. Our CFL data is progressing over time in social emotional learning for our upper grades 5 through 8. We are on track to reach our K through 3 AAP goal, which is our early literacy goal. Our fall to winter benchmark data is in, so we have some great celebrations for our first grade. We had 9 students move from high risk to medium and low, and we had 26 second graders move from high risk to medium and low. We are also on track for our implementation goals with the HMH curriculum. And we have 20% of our families connected to our Power Hub, which is our electronic grade book. I just want to extend to you to visit at any time. Dr. Morgan visited last spring. He really celebrated our culture and the progress that we are making, but we encourage you to see for yourself what makes our school special. Thank you for your time. Any questions?
Thank you. Any discussion from board members? Mr. Billups?
Hey, good afternoon. Thank you for the presentation. I did have a question around, not so much a question, but maybe just can you kind of go into a little bit of the work that you guys did to see such a big decrease in the number of suspensions? I think you said 11% over the last couple years, but since I think you said 2018, it was even a bigger drop in those suspensions. And I know that, I assume that that impacts the young people's academic performance as well as if they're in school more regularly. So is there anything in particular that went into keeping our young people in school?
Yes, thank you for that question. We did a partnership with our Cleveland Teachers Union called the Restorative Practice Pilot. It started in 2018. So we actually spent 2 years as a school being trained through the International Restorative Practice Institute. Our chapter chair now is the trainer for other teachers within Cleveland. So we do proactive circles. We circle up. We have conflict in our school. We don't just send you out the door. You have to sit down. You have to answer 5 questions. Those 5 questions live on everybody's ID. It's going to tell you what to do, and you're going to feel confident as an adult in our school to go through this process. We also do this with adults, so if adults are having conflict, it works in the same way. We do it with parents. We really learned a lot from the pandemic of how you can use Zoom like that. Maybe the conflict, you're not quite ready for the in-person space, but you could open up this alternative and you could really get some answers to how do we make this right? How do we repair the harm that has been caused? So I really attribute a lot of it to the restorative justice practices, but I also think our two deans in our school are a huge support to this culture. Having like a concentrated culture celebrator, a person who is just really supporting kids in small group. They do things like check in, check out. One thing you'll see if you visit is kids coming to an adult with a folder. That might be a tier 2 kid who has unique goals that they're checking in with an adult about. They're proud to show you, here's how many points I got today. I walked away from a conflict using a peaceful problem-solving strategy. So things like that, they just added up to give skills alternative to causing harm. They had the strategies they needed.
Dr. Sridhar?
Thank you for your presentation, and thanks for talking about some of the strategies that you're working on. I have a question about those two slides that talk about the ELA and math achievement. You touched upon how your students are on track to meet the 2025 goal, which is rather impressive. I mean, going from single digits to double digits is incredibly impressive. But then, it's also critical that going from 15-18% to the 40% is a significant jump in 2 years. What kinds of strategies and plans do you have for making sure that actually does happen?
That's a good question. So the way that our team has looked at what we are doing now is we're laying the foundation where this work can only go up. One of the big things for the HMH curriculum implementation for us as a school is we needed a curriculum that gave us the resources to meet what the standard is asking for. The teachers that are with me now and the teachers that come into our system will have that resource that's not going to go away. So that foundation will not change. The students may change, but our approach and our strategies are now there. The tools we have in our toolkit aren't going to go away. So I think that that allows for us to go from 15 to 30 to 45%. I think our new CEO has really held us to a very rigorous standard, so I think we are being asked to meet that expectation. And when you ask people to do those things, they'll rise to that occasion. So I do think that we are capable of meeting it. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
Good job. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Again, really, come. O.H. Perry, we're happy to have you. Have a great night, everyone.
Thank you. All right. This evening, we have 6 resolutions in the areas of finance, academics, and equity and culture that will be presented to the board for discussion only. The board will be asked to consider the adoption of these resolutions at our February 25th board business meeting. Dr. Morgan, would you please present these resolutions?
Yes, first we have our finance resolutions. 5.01, authorizing the acceptance of a gift from Martha Holden Jennings Foundation and authorizing the CEO to spend the funds in accordance with the terms and conditions of the gift. With this resolution, the board will be accepting a gift from the Martha Holden Jennings Foundation in the amount of $3,000 for a book vending machine at Waverly School.
Thank you. Is there any discussion from the board? All right.
All right, we have one academic resolution, 6.01, authorizing the Cleveland Municipal School District to enter into a primary service agreement with the Educational Service Center of Northeast Ohio as provided by Ohio Revised Code 3313.843. With this resolution, the board will be authorizing the school district to enter into another biennial primary service agreement with the Educational Service Center of Northeast Ohio. This is a routine biennial action by the board. This agreement is for the 25-26 and 26-27 school years. The list of services is set forth in the resolution and include in-service and continuing education programs for district personnel, curriculum services, research and development programs, academic instruction, and assistance in the provision of special accommodations and classes for students with disabilities. The cost of these services is $6.50 per student based on the district's enrollment and is deducted from the district's state foundation payments. The Education Center of Northeast Ohio has asked the district to return the executed agreement by March 13, 2025. The ESC will then file the agreement with the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce by July 1, 2025, as required by state law.
Any discussion from board members? All right, thank you.
The next four resolutions are equity and cultural resolutions. 7.01 is authorizing the employment of teaching, non-teaching, and school-based administrative staff. There's a routine monthly resolution authorizing a total of 49 new hires this month, the details which are set forth in Exhibit A attached to the resolution. 7.02, authorizing the reclassification of employees. There's a routine monthly resolution authorizing the reclassification of a total of 11 employees this month, the details which are set forth in the Exhibit A attached to the resolution. 7.03, accepting the retirements, resignations, and other separations of employees. This is a routine monthly resolution accepting a total of 53 separations of employees this month, the details which are set forth in Exhibit A attached to the resolution. And 7.04, authorizing the issuance of limited contracts for differential positions and payment of additional earned compensation to employees. This also is a routine monthly resolution authorizing limited contracts for differentials and payment of additional compensation to a total of 59 employees this month, the details which are set forth in Exhibit A attached to the resolution.
Thank you, Dr. Morgan. Is there any discussion from board members? All right, that concludes the presentation of the resolutions on tonight's agenda. Is there any old business? Any new business? The next regular board meeting will be a board business meeting on Tuesday, February 25th at 6:30 p.m. at Halley School, 7901 Halley Avenue. The chair will now entertain a motion that the board enter into executive session for the purpose of considering the appointment and employment of public employees and officials, preparing for negotiations with public employees concerning their compensation or the terms and conditions of their employment, and conferring with attorneys concerning disputes involving the Board of Education that are the subject of pending or imminent court action.
So moved.
Thank you. Mr. Stockdale, please call the roll on this motion.
Ms. Ellicott?
Yes.
Mr. Billups?
Yes.
Mr. Briggs?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones? Yes. Reverend Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Peak?
Yes.
Dr. Sridhar? Yes. Mrs. Welchow? Motion passes with 8 votes.
Thank you. The board will now move into executive session. Following executive session, the board will briefly return to this room to conduct some further business.
You go to the website, you type in the access code, and you're in. Your kids' pictures are there, and you could easily, I have kids at 2 different schools, you can easily switch from school to school and keep up on top of it.
Everything's right there. Like, everybody always has their phone with them, so you can easily access it to your phone.
It's a relief for me knowing that my child has the best chance that they can, knowing every day they wake up, they can go to school and, take advantage of the day.
Say and spell your name for me,
Okay, now?
whenever you're ready.
Okay, Nichelle Campbell.
Officer Patrice Evans.
Hello, I'm Adam Goodall.
His name is Louis Kumba, Luis Cumba Jr.
I've been with the district now 24 years.
8 years.
15, 16 years.
Total 28 years in the district.
If I had to name a superhero that represented our safety officers, it would definitely be Batman, because all we have to do is put the light up and they're gonna come and help us out.
It's all like the Flash, right? It is just immediately, something happens and they are working on it right away.
Mighty Mouse. Compare it with Mighty Mouse. He moves quick, he's fast, he's speedy, and he always saves the day.
I worked a lot with kids in the neighborhood, and I got real passionate helping the kids.
I know my father a long time ago, he was a security officer, and my mother was a bus driver for CMSD, so I'm part of like a legacy family. And I started being assistant coach at wrestling at Lincoln West. And then one day I asked one of the lead officers, hey, this job seems cool. Can you help me out? I've been doing it ever since then.
They trust me. The kids, they come to me, they trust me with stuff they may not even tell their parents, even their teachers. They trust me.
I enjoy it. I'm blessed to be a part of their life. And it's really a blessing when they come back to you and say, Ms. Campbell, I'm working here. Look, this is my lady, this is my baby. And just to see the positive things they're doing. And I really love the ones that come back that works for CMSD. I love my position. I always told them, I said, when you come back, I want you to come back as my white shirt. I want you to come back as my boss. So I need you to do everything you could do. Oh, Ms. Campbell, I want to be your boss. I said, it'll be a pleasure for you to become my boss. So, yeah.
Welcome back to another exciting episode of the District Dish. I am so glad to be here at John Hay Cleveland School of Science and Medicine with these wonderful scholars. I see them in their white coat. So excited to hear from them and their experiences, and looking forward to diving in. Here at the District Dish, we tell CMSD stories one dish at a time. So with that said, let's get a chance to meet some of our scholars.
My name is Camila, and I'm a junior.
My name is Esther, and I'm a 12th grader.
My name is Elijah, and I am a 12th grader.
What is your favorite downtime activity?
I don't get a lot of downtime activity. So so every morning I work out, whether that is like just going to the gym like I did this morning or yesterday doing a run. That is a time just to kind of center myself, ground myself before starting the day. But I love just when I don't have anything to do, which is very rare, but I just love to just relax, catch up on TV. I don't get a chance to watch a lot of TV because my day starts really early, and then a lot of times I get in at like 10 or 11 o'clock at night, so I may get 30 minutes of TV to watch, and then it's like, okay, gotta go to bed and start it over again. So on days where I have nothing to do, I just love to just relax, and that's probably my favorite activity. What are your favorite downtime activities?
I would say when I do have the chance, I would say playing the piano, which is like my hobby. It like relieves my stress, like from school, like outside of school, and yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
I would say running track. I run track, and I'm day in, day out, all through the year running track.
Are you cross country, short?
I do short distance, and I hurdle as well.
Oh,
so
let's go.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it when I'm doing it, but that is my favorite downtime activity.
Yeah. I personally don't consider basketball as a downtime activity. It's more like work. So the only downtime activity I really get to do is play video games. I've been playing Black Ops 6 recently.
Okay, yeah. I'm into video games too. I have a Nintendo Switch, have an Xbox. I like that. I have a ton of games on my phone that I love to play. That's another thing on my downtime. Can also create stress because, on some days when you have nothing to do, you realize, and I'm speaking for myself, like, I've now spent hours playing this video game. So
it gets like that.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. By any chance, do you want to tell us what your favorite game is?
My favorite video game. I love anything in the Mario series because I was, so when I was younger, there was no Nintendo out yet. Like when I was a real young kid, we had Atari. And so then when the first Nintendo came out, of course, the Mario Brothers game, and I enjoyed it. And then I remember Super Nintendo and finishing that. I remember the original Mario Kart. So anytime that they could have any Mario, anything, I'm there for it. Same thing on the Sega side, which you can get it for other game brands, but the Sonic the Hedgehog. So really old school type of games like that. So, love Mortal Kombat. Played it. Played a few versions of it. So.
So, considering the threats constantly presented to schools around the country, what precautions have been taken or are being taken to ensure the safety of schools in our district?
Yeah, that is a great question. One of the things that is always top of mind for me, our number one strategic priority for our district is safe and supportive schools and a safe and supportive culture. And so we're constantly working to think about ways we can make the schools safe. Of course, this year we have our new cell phone free zones, which as I've been going into schools and even talking to scholars, and actually a lot of them said a lot of positive things about it. Now there are things we can still learn and things that scholars want us to consider, but that's a way that is helping us keep schools safe. We are almost at the process of doing a new badging system that I'm really excited about, that we've been that I've been asking our team to do to help us make our high schools and eventually all of our schools more safe, to know who's in the building in terms of, swiping in and out of the building. So that's coming, and the team has been working really hard on it. So those are things we've been doing. We also work really closely with the city. So I was in a meeting this morning, meeting with the mayor's office, talking about how do we make what surrounds the school safer. When I've been doing these small group lunches with groups of students, and it's been interesting. For the most part, kids, when we ask kids to rate their school on 1 to 5 of how safe their schools are, most kids gave their school a high rating on safety. They gave the district a high rating on safety, but they mentioned the neighborhood as an area that they don't feel safe, or coming to and from school. So those are areas we want to work with the city on and making sure it's safe. And then, of course, we have metal detectors in all of our high schools, not only in all of our high schools, in every single one of our buildings. And that keeps a lot of things out of our schools. We see things of people trying to get things into the schools, and it stops it. And so, those are things that we're doing to really make sure our scholars are safe, and that's top of mind for us.
I just had a quick question. So you said the new badge system, will that go for students and teachers as well, or just teachers?
It's going to be for students.
Oh.
Yeah, teachers already have a badge.
Mm-hmm.
We have now a badge system also for volunteers. So when there are people who don't work who aren't teachers or staff in the school, but they're a volunteer, they have to have a certain badge to get in and out of the schools. But this will be for students. And so it'll be. I know most students have an ID, but we're going to be moving more towards a required ID system and a required swiping in, so that when students go in, we actually know that they're in the building safely.
Dr. Morgan, what do you hope students will get out of the Get More Opportunity Fund?
So I'm excited now because the way we restructured it, every school will get dollars, and because every school is different, the school can determine, and the scholars in that school, the teachers in that school can determine what's best for that school. So that's going to be really helpful. When we saw in the earlier iteration of it, there were certain schools that were mainly going out for the opportunity, and we wanted to make sure more scholars can get the opportunity from it. But we want to learn from it. The nice thing about hearing the feedback about bringing it back is that we can always bring something back, but also make it better. So as we do this, I expect it to get better and for us to learn more and evolve. But to know that we have 361 applications, it just makes me excited. I know we won't be able to fund all of those, but that is exciting, that there's a lot of interest. Well, this has been an amazing discussion. Once again, just really appreciate all that you guys are doing. I'm so proud of you guys. The work that you guys are doing, and you plan to do. Just continue to keep going. High school is challenging, and when you get to college, it'll be even more challenging, and life can be challenging. But as long as you remember that with resilience and hard work, the road is yours. So just keep going and know that you have a team of people supporting you. This was another episode of the District Dish. Was so happy to be here with our amazing scholars, Camila, Esther, and Elijah. Join us again next time for another episode of the District Dish, where we're bringing you CMSD stories one dish at a time.
You go to the website, you type in the access code, and you're in. Your kids' pictures are there, and you could easily, I have kids at 2 different schools, you can easily switch from school to school and keep up on top of it.
Everything's right there. Like, everybody always has their phone with them, so you can easily access it to your phone.
It's a relief for me knowing that my child has the best chance that they can, knowing every day they wake up, they can go to school and, take advantage of the day.
Back in public session. The chair will now entertain a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the 3-day suspension of a school-based administrator. Dr. Morgan, any explanation of this resolution?
Yes, this resolution is to authorize the 3-day suspension of a school-based administrator for violation of district policies, procedures, and rules.
Is there any discussion from board members? Mr. Stockdale, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Ellicott?
Yes.
Mr. Billups?
Yes.
Mr. Briggs?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones? Reverend Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Peak?
Yes.
Dr. Sridhar?
Yes.
Mrs. Welch-Howe? Motion passes with 8 votes.
Thank you. The resolution passes. The chair will now entertain a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the 1-day suspension of a non-teaching employee. Thank you. Dr. Morgan, any explanation on this resolution?
This resolution is to authorize the 1-day suspension of a non-teaching employee for violation of district policies, procedures, and rules.
Is there any discussion from board members? Mr. Stockdale, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Ellicott?
Yes.
Mr. Billups?
Yes.
Mr. Briggs?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones? Reverend Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Peak?
Yes.
Dr. Sridhar?
Yes.
Mrs. Welch-Howe? Motion passes with 8 votes.
The resolution passes. The chair will now entertain a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the 5-day suspension of a non-teaching employee.
So moved.
Thank you. Dr. Morgan, any explanation on this resolution?
Yes, this is a resolution to authorize the 5-day suspension of a non-teaching employee for violation of district policies, procedures, and rules.
Is there any discussion from the board? Mr. Stockdale, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Ellicott?
Yes.
Mr. Billups?
Yes.
Mr. Briggs?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones? Reverend Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Peak?
Yes.
Dr. Sridhar?
Yes.
Mrs. Welch-Howe? The motion passes with 8 votes.
The resolution passes. The chair will now entertain a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the 1-day suspension of a non-teaching employee.
Second.
Dr. Morgan, any explanation on this resolution?
This resolution is to authorize the 1-day suspension of a non-teaching employee for violation of district policies, procedures, and rules.
Is there any discussion from board members? Mr. Stockdale, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Ellicott?
Yes.
Mr. Billups?
Yes.
Mr. Briggs?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones? Reverend Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Peak?
Yes.
Dr. Sridhar?
Yes.
Mrs. Welch-Howe? Motion passes with 8 votes.
The resolution passes. Is there any other new business? There being no further business before the board, the chair will now entertain a motion to adjourn this board work session.
So moved.
Thank you. Hearing no objection, this meeting is adjourned. Have a good night.